Hey everybody, TheYo-KaiGuy here. Welcome back to another My Top 10, and I'm here with my friend Corey from Unveiling Toys. How's it going?
Oh, great. It's awesome to be on your YouTube channel. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, so let's begin. We're going to be talking about the top 10 rarest and most expensive video games for PlayStation 1 that we own. So, what'd you bring in today?
All right. When you hit me up about these videos, I was really excited because PlayStation's one of my favorite systems. PlayStation 1, I don't have the most expensive collections, but I got a lot of fun games. So we're going to start right here with one of my favorite game companies, Squaresoft or Square Enix. And this is Tobal number 1. It's a cool little game in the sense that it's, again, by Squaresoft, so it came with a Final Fantasy VII sampler CD. I love any game that come with additional stuff, so I've actually not got a chance to play a lot of this, but it's more of a fighting game from Squaresoft.
Yeah, it's from what I've heard, stuff like that can be like pretty rare. They're hard to get your hands on nowadays. I mean, nowadays you just download the demo. But I got to admit, the PS1 is also my favorite console to collect for. It's my personal go-to console. So the one that I picked out for this one is Jade Cocoon, Secret of the okay, I might pronounce this wrong. Secret of the Tamimahu, if you can see that there.
It's a mouthful.
Yeah. This was actually made by Crave Entertainment and is only one disc only, but the manual is so huge that it kind of just looks like a freaking, I don't know, like one of those magazines that you see for strategy guides. But yeah, the game was actually done by Studio Ghibli, for the same people that did the Hayao Miyazaki films,
Okay.
such as Spirited Away or even My Neighbor Totoro. But yeah, in the same sense, this is like Pokemon and Final Fantasy mixed together, where you capture creatures or monsters and use them in battle.
That's really cool.
The thing is, though, that the only problem is that when you press, it has the simple tank controls, where basically you press forward and you move forward in the direction that you're facing, no matter what direction you're facing.
Oh, okay.
The good news is that it's just basically navigating menus, so it's just kind of like, one of those types of games.
Cool.
So what's the next one you brought in?
Next one I've got here, another dual case here, and I know you have this in your collection. It's a lot of fun and everyone should definitely get it. It is The Legend of Dragoon, just a legendary RPG by Sony at the time that a lot of the Final Fantasy games were coming out by Squaresoft. Sony wanted to put out its own, and it had really great graphics at the time, awesome gameplay, just a really good high fantasy world.
Yeah, from what I know, that one was basically like the Final Fantasy. They wanted it to be the Final Fantasy VII killer.
Yeah, and I mean, Final Fantasy obviously lived on, but this game, I would love to see a sequel of this put out by Sony, or a reimagination of it. That'd be great for PS4.
Maybe even a remake for Switch or PS4 or any kind of system out there.
Remake would be good too.
It's a good game, regardless. The next one we got here for mine is The Legend of Legaia. Now, this one's actually a little bit weird in the sense that it kind of feels like a lot like Tekken or any of the fighting games out there. Cool. Where no matter what armor you're wearing, it'll actually show up on the screen where you're basically either fighting or on the map and whatnot. So if you have a chainmail, it'll show up on your character. And this one basically allows you to capture monsters as well and use their special abilities. So each time you do so, it does that. It's another one-disc game where the manual's really huge. But it's a really fun game to play, and it did release one sequel on the PlayStation 2 called just called Legaia 2, which was the end of the series, which is pretty sad because this one is actually very good, and I wouldn't mind seeing it be remastered.
So it's got RPG elements with fighting, or is it mainly just a fighter?
It's RPG elements with, well, it's actually basically an RPG with fighting elements.
Okay.
So yeah, in most games those days were like fighting games with RPG elements, but this one was the exact opposite, and it was pretty cool for the time.
Oh, right. So my next couple here are parts of PlayStation Collector's Editions, and this is from a set. This is Grand Theft Auto London Edition. It's from Grand Theft Auto 1, so way before you had the 3D, you had the top-down view, and this is a mission expansion pack. I have the whole collector's edition, but unfortunately this is the only case that is still in good condition. The other one's got a little beat up and destroyed. I have the disc, but Grand Theft Auto London Missions is definitely one of my favorite games in my PlayStation collection.
Yeah, I recently managed to get my hands on the original GTA. The first one.
Yeah, it's fun because obviously have the staple Grand Theft Auto elements of stealing cars and doing missions, but it's a little different about the top-down view. I quite like it.
Yeah, recently they actually released this one for the on the Switch, where it's just a pixel crime city, where it's basically the same thing as a top-down view for GTA.
Oh, cool.
The next game we have on our list is a big boy here, and that is the Ark the Lad Collection. Now this one has 4 games in it, and even a DVD based around how they made the game itself.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
I'll open it up and show you guys what it looks like. So yeah, that's a big box right there. As you can see, you can fit like 3.5 games in there. This one is the all the thumbsticks and stuff like that, where you just pull the soap, and they fell out. But yeah, this tells about all the Ark the Lad collection. It's got everything there, and there was even a card game here, which allowed you to put stands on and then flick characters at the other player. But since it's in its original packaging, that's actually pretty cool. Like,
yeah, still sealed.
yeah, and that's what I like about this kind of thing. That's basically for the thumbsticks right here, where you'd put these on the thumbsticks and use them as a part of the game. But
that's sweet. You still have it in the collection piece. Looks like nice little felt lining and stuff. That's a really nice box.
yeah, I actually got this for about $170. The art book right here has all the information in the manual, so it's basically like a manual art book sort of style.
Beautiful cover.
Yeah. He talks about the characters in every Ark the Lad game on the PlayStation. Surprisingly, this was the only Ark the Lad game we got in North America that was on the PS1, because in Japan they already released all 3 games, and by the time they decided to release this one, it was already available. It was already available in Japan for all 3 of them, so they just decided to do this for North America. But no other company wanted to, other than Working Design. Sadly, Working Design basically dropped off the face of the earth 3 years after the game was made, because it took so long for them to make. And as you can see, it even comes with its own spin-off title, Ark the Lad.
Even the CD artwork is really beautiful, has a nice shine to it. They went all out for this collector's edition.
Oh yeah, and surprisingly, it was the only collector's edition. The only thing that they released was the collector's edition. Yeah, so a little bit of history there for you. And
how
then
many
there's
discs fit in that case? That may be the most I've ever seen.
5, actually.
5, okay.
This is a 5-disc case, and that's actually
I
the
thought 4
first
was
time.
the limit.
That's actually the first time I've seen that one, and I'm very surprised they actually did that when I first saw this, to be honest. But yeah, it's a very fun game. If you do really want to play it, though, you can actually play it online, like on the on store. So you can just buy it for like $13 a piece, and just buy the whole games if you want to on PSP, Vita, and PS3.
So they're still super playable, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, they're still super playable. Very fun games to play.
Cool.
So what's next?
My next game, well, it was supposed to be in a box, not as big as this one here, but it is another collector's edition. It is the Spyro. It's just 2 of the 3 games. Unfortunately, I don't have the original Spyro. Together, the collector's edition, all 3 titles range over $100 Canadian, so it's really cool to at least have 2 of them. Spyro is still one of my favorite games, just pick up and play. I'm a huge platformer fan, probably because I grew up on Mario, so I've got the second and third one, I believe, yeah, Year of the Dragon and Ripto's Rage. So again, missing the first one in the collection. I may have had it once upon a time and it's just missing now, but there is a collector's edition for Spyro.
Yeah, Spyro was one of my favorite video games of all time. I used to play that on the original PS1. The original Spyro, Spyro 2, and Spyro 3. Those were like my favorite, but I really loved Ripto's Rage, because it was like it was the thing that introduced me to Spyro.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I played. I used to get the PlayStation magazines all the time, so I know I played the demo of every one multiple times, and I owned a couple early on, and now it's nice to have these ones in my collection.
Oh yeah, definitely. Before I move on, I want to give an honorable mention or honorable shout out to Kadolka, because this one's also pretty rare. The game CDs just themselves are usually worth about $30-$40 at the most. This one has all CDs. Unfortunately, I don't have the original casing, which is pretty sad. But yeah, if you have the original case with the box art, it's usually worth around $120-$130.
Oh, wow.
At the most. So yeah, that's one honorable mention right here. It actually spawned the series Shadow Hearts. That was the game.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, this was the game that spawned Shadow Hearts.
Oh, really? Didn't know that.
Yeah, so that was so yeah, it's Kadolka first. And do you have any honorable mentions?
Yes, since we're talking honorable mentions, these aren't on the super valuable list, but I brought in this Yu-Gi-Oh set. Again, it's another big box here, but again, it's just a one disc game. It's funny when they leave room for the manual, but there's a lot to this game because anyone who's ever played Yu-Gi-Oh knows there's a lot to the card game. It's a very strategic game, which is fun because a lot of times you need a friend to play, someone, or cards. This you can just pick up. It's got all the original card sets, so people who really enjoy the original Yu-Gi-Oh, like I do, this is a lot of fun. Not only that, you can take the original cards, the serial codes or whatever it is for the individual cards, and import them, so you can build decks. If you actually have the card, you can take the old serial code off and import them into the game. So I love gimmicks and features like that where you can take real life stuff and put it into your video games. So I just wanted to bring in Yu-Gi-Oh as my honorable mention because we have card game nights here at Unveiling Toys, and Yu-Gi-Oh is part of that. So
yeah, I actually managed to pick that game up as well, so it's a really fun game to play.
All right.
The next game I want to look at here is Suikoden 2 on the PlayStation. Now this is actually one of the holy grails of video gaming, and loose copy that like I have can be worth around $140, $160 to $170.
Wow.
A complete in box version can run you anywhere from around $270 to around $300.
Very collectible.
And even a brand new version usually sells at around $3,000 because it's worth a lot. Because when it's brand new, factory sealed, it's pretty hard to get your hands on.
There's probably not a lot of those left anymore because it's such a playable game too.
I've only seen one. Surprisingly, this came out in 1999, and it was when the PS1 was on its last legs. It was very. They were released in such a limited quantity, which is pretty sad because this game was actually very fun to play, very addicting. The only problem is that it right after the game released, it kind of Suikoden kind of went downhill from there. The the one thing I do like about this game is that it's traditional RPG. It's made by Konami, which is a very fun game developer, and if you really want to play this game, you can actually get it online, like for like $13 Canadian.
So if you want to play it, you can save some money and just get the digital version.
Yeah, you can play it on your PlayStation 3, PlayStation Vita, or PSP if you want to.
Cool.
So yeah, it's a pretty fun game, and it's a really well-known hidden gem. So if you really do want it, I recommend getting the digital version. This version right here is very hard to get. I found this one for about $40, so that was awesome, and the guy says that he's got a manual for me, so
awesome.
Yeah,
slowly put it together.
Yeah, slowly but surely.
All right, so what I have next right here is Final Fantasy Anthology, and I just brought this game instead of bringing my whole Final Fantasy collection just to represent my Final Fantasy games, because anyone who's played the PlayStation 1, I'm sure at least has got one Final Fantasy game under their belt, and it is my favorite game series of all time. It started on the NES for me. I had the original Final Fantasy 1, and so PlayStation 1, it's one of my favorite systems because of all the Final Fantasies. You can play 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, Tactics even, all on the PlayStation 1, so it's definitely my favorite game series of all time, which is why I love the PlayStation 1.
Yeah, I actually managed to get my hands on Final Fantasy Tactics, the Black Label version, which
Awesome.
is really good, fun game to play.
Yeah.
Tactical RPGs aren't really my thing, but I really love Final Fantasy Tactics.
Mm-hmm.
And
Just in that one, just being able to switch jobs at any time and try them all out is a lot of fun. I'm a huge fan of the summoners, so.
So yeah, what's your last game that you brought in?
My very last game on the Final Fantasy theme is a spin-off from Final Fantasy, and it is probably the most valuable game in my PlayStation 1 collection, Chocobo Racing. It's the Black Label. Looked it up a little bit before this video. Right now on eBay, the cheapest copy I could find is around $80 Canadian. A lot of them are over $100, so it's nice to have the Black Label all together, complete in box, got the disc, the manual with it, and I'm a huge fan of racing games. Racing RPG, that's my wheelhouse, so Chocobo Racing.
So yeah, there's actually a few other Chocobo things, I really love Chocobo, so I just got to mention this. Chocobo Mystery Dungeon was also on the PlayStation 1, but is still being made today, along with the newest release was Chocobo Mystery Dungeon Everybody on the Switch.
Those are games that I still have not played, and ever since I was a teenager I want to play Chocobo Mystery Dungeon, so I got to get to that.
Well, it's basically these. I wanted to get to that too, but they're actually the same. From what I've heard, they're the same thing as the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon games.
Okay, yeah.
Also, quick note, here's something you probably didn't know. In Yokai Watch 3, Chocobo can actually be befriended as a yokai. So you can actually play with Chocobo and even ride him in races.
That is something I did not know, but it's completely awesome. So
yeah, I didn't even know that too. But when I started playing the third version on the 3DS, Chocobo can be befriended as a character.
That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. The last game I want to take a look at, and the one that's most expensive in my collection so far, is Tail Concerto. Now, this is a game made by Atlas, and it was very limitedly released. It sold very poorly in the West. Mainly to do because around the same time it was Super Mario 64, all the other platforming games like Spyro. It had a lot of competitors. It just couldn't shine through those kind of games. But this is a really good total hidden gem. The game I managed to get was around $200, but this one right here nowadays usually sells at around about $230, $250, maybe $300 at the most. The very least one I found for a complete in box version is probably around $260 at the moment.
Very pricey game.
Yeah. The only problem is this game is not available on online, so you can't download to play it.
Explains the price hike.
Yeah. The thing is, it's like a Saturday morning cartoon. This one you play as a Waffle Rhymebread. He's a canine anthropomorphic cop, similar to like one of those furry games. That's what I like to refer them to. It's kind of like a Star Fox or many of those kind of games, or even Crash Bandicoot. Well, no, Crash Bandicoot had humans in it, so these are basically humanless games. You take control of a mech that shoots bubbles. It's kind of very wonky. The only way I can describe it is if you try to play it. So the only way to play this game, though, is to go play emulator, which is probably the most what people have to do so. Or try to track down one of the elusive copies, because these ones are very rare, complete in box. Even just the disc itself is worth $150.
It's cool even just seeing one, because again, I've seen the video, I've seen people playing online a lot, and it's a game that I definitely like to add to my collection one day, because it looks super just adorable. Like, look at the graphics on it, and it's a fun platformer from everything you've showed me. So it's
the graphics
Atlas. Can't go wrong with Atlas.
The graphics on there look amazing. Apparently, this game was made by Bandai in Japan, but Atlas took up the reins in North America, and it didn't sell well, which is a shame, because this was a very decent game. Back in 2011, though, there was actually a game that's a spiritual successor to this one, and that is Sola Torobo Red the Hunter. Now, this is actually taking place in the same universe, and I actually own the game, surprisingly, but only just the loose copy. I had to make my own case, but still, this one is basically a mech RPG battling kind of game. You take on different jobs, similar to Final Fantasy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a 3D with 2D graphics, and it's very fun to play. The main character can basically go around and buy certain items. It's a very hard RPG, but once you do get the mechanics down, it is a simply very fun game to play.
And it's also a super collectible game, just like Tail Concerto, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Getting a complete in-box copy with the soundtrack usually is worth around $450.
Wow, soundtrack on a DS game, that's great.
I managed to get this one for only $90 or $80 US or $90 Canadian, and surprisingly, the loose copies have gone up to around $120, $130. I wouldn't be surprised if it went up to around $140. So, yeah, it's pretty. These are pretty expensive games, but some of them can be had for a very cheap price. I mean, they're not most rare video games aren't really that expensive.
Yeah, the fun thing even with the Final Fantasy games is we're talking about most of them are available for $7 to $10 or so, and there's like 40, 60 hours of gameplay in each game, so there's a lot of these games, as much as they're collectible in the hard disk, you can still play them with the new digital world.
Oh yeah, definitely. But right now, Tail Concerto can't be downloaded, so the only way to play it is emulation or track down one of the elusive copies. I mean, it's harsh, but it's a really fun game to play. I recommend checking it out if you manage to get your hands on it. Cool. But anyway, guys, that's it for this video. Once again, if you guys enjoy our videos, make sure to leave a like, comment, and if you want to, subscribe. Also, where can we find you, Corey?
Unveiling Toys. Look us up on YouTube and Facebook. We got lots of content. And right here in Campbell River, so 975A Shoppers Row.
All right. We'll see you again next time. Thanks, Corey.
Thanks, Gabe.